I was watching this woman, and she's one of my favorite content creators on Instagram. She's British. She was going through a cocktail recipe for like a version of a mimosa, but I watched her put the blood orange juice in, and she filled it up almost to the top. I was like, that's way too much orange juice. Like, I prefer my mimosas to be a little bit less on the juice, more on the sparkling wine or whatever. And welcome back. Sometimes it takes me take two for it, so that's what I'm laughing about is I immediately launched into take two. Welcome everyone. This is Don't Watch at Night, a spooky little podcast dedicated to Spanish language horror and Latin American horror. I'm your host Valerie.
And I'm Veronica.
You're looking really cozy today. I like that sweater you're wearing.
Thank you.
So anyway, I was asking you before we launched into recording, what did you do today? Because here the weather is really rainy and cold. I don't know what it's like for you guys.
Same. It's like the kind of weather that just makes me want to hibernate. But I did have to get out in it because actually Robert left around 1. He'll be back tomorrow. But so I just had to go run some errands, buy some jeans for Spawn number 4 for a orchestra concert that he has coming up on Tuesday. None of his jeans fit him anymore.
So something nice. Yeah, I know. The uphill battle of trying to keep kids in pants that fit is just constant. It's constant. Mm-hmm. And every season I'm scrambling to get them clothes that fit as soon as the weather shifts. So yeah, the weather's been gross and wet and rainy here. My hair is wet. I took a shower at 4 o'clock today for the first time in a number of days. Veronica, just been in my defense though, we've had a sick kiddo. Kid number 3. This was his first foray into, I mean, not to gross everybody out, but it was just a lot of trying to navigate getting our kid to the toilet in a timely manner and not always making it. And so it was rough. It was rough 24 hours, but we're on the other side of it.
He doesn't spread to everybody else.
I know. All day long, I've been like, how are you feeling? Everyone, I'm like, how are you feeling? How's your stomach? How are you doing? So let me know if anything starts to go wrong. But hopefully it was just a brief blip. He seems to be doing worlds better today. So that's good. Ron, I had put in the opening section of our outline, I had wanted us to talk a little bit about holiday horror movies because I don't know if you do. I don't generally make horror movies part of my Christmas time. I haven't in the past anyway, apart from what we do for this podcast. But there aren't any holiday horror movies I've typically gotten into. That has changed a little bit as of this year, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, you guys don't take in any Gremlins, none of that?
I mean, I watched Gremlins when it originally came out, but I don't think I've rewatched it since then. Yeah, I don't make rotation. My Christmas, my whole December actually, both in movies, TV shows, books that I read, I tend to kind of want to I'm looking for more just cozy things that are lighthearted that are not going to pull a lot of strong emotions out of me, that I can just, the kind of thing you want to just snuggle up under a warm blanket with maybe a cup of hot cocoa and you're just snuggled in.
Yeah.
So typically have not added horror movies to that, and we'll talk about obviously the movie that we watched last night. But something like that, I wouldn't have an issue with. I would not want to watch something truly traumatic in December, but something like what and we'll talk about it. Would be okay. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I've never really Edward Scissorhands, I consider a holiday movie. I don't know why. I guess because it ends kind of culminating in snow. But I would watch that. I have watched that. And I've told the kids time and again, it's this is the year you're going to watch it.
Christmassy, or I haven't seen it in so long.
I don't think so. The first one, I don't believe so. I don't think it takes place over Christmas. And I just rewatched it again ahead of the sequel, and I already don't remember. Which, by the way, everyone, as of this recording, Beetlejuice is streaming on HBO. So if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. Yeah, I have never really made holiday horror part of my. Usually, because I'm coming out of Halloween, and everyone who knows me knows I go at Halloween hard. So by the time we transfer into holiday season, I'm okay, time to shift gears. Time to go into like Ronnie said, feel good movies. But we do have for you guys, and we're going to link it in show notes, just a couple of links of good holiday horror stuff that we came across, including a big list of 25 Christmas horror movies to watch for a spooky holiday season. It's from cinemablend.com. And I went through the list. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the list at all, Ron.
Yeah.
A lot of them were from like the 2000s, but Gremlins is on there, which came out in 1984. And I finally got the kids to watch it. They watched it today, Ron, just today.
Oh,
they finished it. They finished it just like an hour ago. And it was just really funny because I hadn't seen it in a really long time. So like I almost didn't remember much of it. There were definitely scenes that is like, oh, I remember this woman getting catapulted up the stairs. She's about to get launched out the window. the little gizmo, the little tune that he sings throughout the movie, like whatever it is, I was humming it all throughout the house. And at a certain point, first kid was very into it in the beginning, and then like halfway through the movie, I had to jump in the shower, so I missed a chunk of it with them. But when I came out of the shower, I was still humming the tune, and he was like, "Nope, don't sing that. Don't sing that anymore. Don't sing that." And I was like, "Oh, it's not so cute anymore." It's like, "Nope, that's dead to me now." But they had a good time up until the end when the gremlins start getting exposed to light, and that movie does a pretty good job of the effects, which actually got kicked up a notch by the time the sequels came around. Do you know that Gremlins was rated G? I believe.
I don't remember that.
Let me double check. I believe the first film was rated G. And then I think subsequent films were rated like PG-13 or something or another. No, it was rated PG. So Gremlins was rated PG. And then I think subsequent versions might have been like PG-13.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of good movies on this list, but a lot of them from the 2000s. So give it a look. Also, Black Christmas from the 70s. Silent Night, Deadly Night from the 80s. There's some cool ones on there, including that one that I told you about, Ron, last episode, Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale. That came out in 2010, and that's a fiendish horror thriller. We'll link that for you guys. We'll get to the movie portion of what we watched, but it is obviously based off of the title of this episode, which is going to clue you in. We're talking about Krampus today, and before we launch into the movie, I had wanted to sort of talk a little bit about the lore of Krampus, because I think even if you are someone who's very familiar with it, it's always anyone who's familiar with folklore of any kind is always somebody who enjoys hearing about it and never tires of hearing about it. So I think it's fun to talk about it. We've also linked this for you guys from Britannica.com. How familiar are you with Krampus lore, I should ask?
I had heard of it. I'd come across it, in books I had read. There's a whole book.
Well, yeah, because you used to be pretty big on mythological gods and stuff, right?
Yeah, and then there's a whole book written by, I can't remember the name of the author. It's going to bug me. And then, I used to enjoy a show. What was that? God, my brain today is just
great
in a fog.
Good content.
Grimm. I used to watch that show Grimm on television, which pulled a lot of different, some of the creatures were just made up, but they did pull a lot of different, like the chupacabra was the subject of
an episode.
Are you familiar with the premise of that show? I
think I remember. Is this the one? Hold on. I'm pulling it up right now. Yes. Okay. So this is the one.
It's a descendant of the actual Grimm.
Starring Bitsy Tulloch, or whatever her name is, who I had a theater class with once. Bitsy Tulloch, yeah.
Yeah, so it's about a descendant of the actual Grimm from Grimm's fairy tales, who kind of has the ability to see what in the show are called Wesen. I don't know if that's an actual maybe German word or not, but anyway, so it would just pull different folklore creatures from different cultures, and so there was an episode that dealt with Krampus.
Yeah, that's cool. I had only loosely been aware of him. I'd been learning more about him in recent years. Honestly, didn't know a whole lot about him. So I did go and pull some stuff for folks who maybe want to learn more from the article that we're linking, or the link that we're providing for you guys, some stuff about Krampus. This is Britannica says it's a Central European popular legend. And then in some of the stuff that I read that we've linked for you guys, they talk about it as being more of like I think Eastern European. So I'm not too sure. And I apologize to the folks that we have from maybe that region. But European legend of a half goat, half demon monster that punishes misbehaving children at Christmas time. He's kind of seen as the devilish companion of St. Nicholas, believed to have originated in Germany around there. His name derives from the German word Krampen, which means claw. Krampus was thought to have been part of pagan rituals for the winter solstice. So according to legend, he's the son of, tell me if I'm saying this wrong, Hel, H-E-L, the Norse god of the underworld. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So with the spread of Christianity, Krampus became associated with Christmas despite efforts by the Catholic Church to ban him. The creature and St. Nicholas are said to arrive on the evening of December 5th, also known as Krampusnacht or Krampus night. While St. Nicholas rewards nice children, leaving presents, Krampus beats those who are naughty with branches and sticks, and in some cases, he will either eat them or take them down to the depths of hell. So on December 6th, which is known as St. Nicholas Day, children who I guess were good awaken to find their gifts, or they're either awakening to find their gifts or they're nursing their injuries. So, and there's a number of like activities. There's Krampusnacht, which is a celebration, Krampus night. There's Krampuslauf or Krampus run. So there are a lot of areas that celebrate this, including places in Austria and Germany that celebrate Krampuslauf. The monster's growing appeal is evidenced by numerous horror films, such as the one we're doing today.
Disclaimer, as usual, we will be spoiling this movie out the wazoo, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it and then come back, but otherwise, you've been warned. We watched, for our first movie of December, 2015's Krampus, directed by Michael Dougherty, written by Todd Casey, Michael Dougherty, and Zach Shields, and starring MJ Anthony, who looked really familiar to me, that little kid.
Yeah? Did you look up anything else he'd done in?
No, I was too lazy.
Okay.
But he looked really familiar. Adam Scott, Toni Collette, Stefania Lavi Owen, Krista Stadler, Conchata Farrell, Allison Tolman, and David Kochner.
Yeah.
Who are our main peeps.
Our main peeps. Okay, just FYI, in terms of your MJ, what'd you say? MJ Anthony? I don't know. I don't recognize anything he's in. Did you ever see Replicas? Looks like it has Keanu Reeves. Okay, well then, yeah, I don't know that you've. I haven't.
Okay, maybe he just reminds me of somebody. I was actually very surprised to see Toni Collette in a movie.
Were
like
you?
This. Yeah.
Yeah. Michael Dougherty, who also did Trick or Treat. Have you ever seen 2007's?
I have not, but now I've made a note to myself that I
just watched it again this Halloween season. It's so freaking great. Everyone loves Trick or Treat. It's quintessential Halloween movie. Yeah, I was surprised too. Toni Collette was in this. But I love her. I love Toni Collette. Hollywood needs to be giving her more stuff to do.
And then the little tagline for it just says, "A boy who has a bad Christmas." Oh, shoot. Hold on. An ad just popped in front. A boy who has a bad Christmas accidentally summons a festive demon to his family home. I don't know that I would call it a festive demon, but okay. I have a different definition of festive.
Because this is one of those movies that's been out longer. Have you ever seen anything related to this movie, Ron?
I remember when it came out, hearing about it. At the time, I thought it was more of a serious slasher type film movie. Yeah. So I thought. So I wasn't. How old was I in 2015? I don't want to. Don't judge me. Shut up. Leave me alone.
Okay.
Let's just leave that alone.
Edit that out. Okay.
No, leave it in. But yeah, however old I was in 2015, and I'm not telling. Something slasher Christmas wasn't.
Well, I mean, like you just said, that's usually not what you vibe towards this time of year.
My wheelhouse this time, but now that I know, I might, throw it in there every December. Yeah. So, first impressions. Valerie, you're up first.
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, and I have a feeling you and I are going to be in agreement on this, but I was just like, this is great. I tried multiple times to get my kids after I'd watched it all the way through, all week long, I was like, you want to watch it with me? Like, this isn't so bad. You're going to be fine. And they were totally not into it, but I'm going to keep trying. I told Alex, I was like, there's no reason not to put this in the annual rotation. And one day they're going to be ready and they're going to watch it with us. But
maybe not kid number 3.
Maybe not for a while, but I thought it was great. I had so much fun. What did you think?
I thought it was a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
I wasn't going in again because you know me, I never watched those trailers or anything, so hadn't seen anything. I still wasn't sure how far into the horror comedy it was gonna lean as opposed to more serious. But no, I thought I had a really good time.
There's a lot of like
I laughed a few times.
Yeah, there's a lot of like drop-ins of humor, and then especially because I did watch a couple of sections. I didn't watch the whole movie, but I watched a couple of sections again this morning, picking up on it the second time. I was able to catch a lot more funny moments that I just missed the first time around. Because this movie gets a lot of Gremlins comparisons based on some of the stuff that we read that we've linked for you guys. It gets a lot of Gremlins comparison, and having just watched Gremlins again this afternoon, Gremlins is a lot more like straight up unabashedly campy. And this movie, I think, has a lot of more earnest moments of where it's trying to be perhaps a little bit more serious than Gremlins is. And Gremlins is just like from start to finish, it's just silly and fun. But yeah, I mean, this movie was super, super entertaining. I had a good time. How long was this movie?
About like an hour and 38 minutes, something like that. So, you know, the sweet spot wasn't one of those movies where I was looking at like, oh my God, there's still 30 minutes left. It's like how much fun. And that's for me, you know, I think for me, the sweet spot for a horror movie, whether it's serious horror or campy horror, it's like an hour and a half. That's pretty much the max. You know, after that, you're just padding and it's probably not necessary. I had fun with it. I was never looking at the clock.
Yeah, me neither. One of the reviews that we posted talked about, I think it was like the RogerEbert.com review, but just sort of talked about how like it felt like it was taking a long time in the beginning to get to its footing. And I didn't feel that to be the case. I thought it was fine. So
yeah, I didn't feel it. It was the beginning. I like how it just kind of pulled different, like actually when it first started, because it was singing, I don't forget what the Christmas Carol was singing in the background. And it kind of started like an old movie. Like there was a nostalgia factor with that opening montage sequence where the man singing the Christmas Carol while we're doing the slow-mo, the store is opening for Christmas, for shopping, and then things quickly get out of hand with the shoppers. But it's initially I had to like stop and check, okay, did I click on the right movie? Because it almost had I can't think of a movie, maybe Christmas Story, kind of a nostalgic opening.
Right. Yeah.
And then it kind of settled into, I got a lot of vibes from like Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
The dysfunctional family and the relatives.
And the family descending upon this household. Yeah. It was just like evocative of National Lampoons, which I've also already watched this season. Like Ronnie said, the opening of this movie, it starts off with like whatever the song is that's playing over the scene. It's very nostalgic. It's evoking all of those memories of what Christmas season is until we see these people and how they behave in a store.
It's like war. Every man for himself.
It's like a Black Friday sale come to life.
Which is why I don't do Black Friday sales. I like avoid going outside.
So it's that rush of holiday shopping and commercialization of Christmas, but it's like amped up times 10. And so we see fights breaking out. We see
nobody looks happy.
No one's happy. Everyone's miserable. Workers are being trampled. People are acting like buttholes. Like it's a mess. And in the midst of all of this, there's some sort of a Christmas production going on, right? And so we see our main little boy. Our main little boy is up at the front. What's his name? Max. So Max is up at the front. He's on stage and he's getting into a fight with somebody, right? And so we're seeing in slow motion his parents rushing to the stage. It's Adam Scott and it's Toni Collette. What are you looking at?
Just the character list, because I didn't catch all the names.
I didn't like Toni Collette.
Beth was the daughter.
I know Beth, but like throughout all of my notes, I never learned Toni Collette's name. I just call her Toni Collette in every single thing I wrote about her.
I didn't catch it either, but apparently it was Sarah.
Sarah, okay. So yes, Adam Scott and Toni Collette are running to the stage to break up this fight with their little boy. And so you're seeing all of this, right? You're seeing this onslaught of customers acting like buttholes, fights breaking out in this Christmas production. And then we're immediately taken to shots of this huge, nice, beautiful family kitchen. And there's baked goods on every single surface to the max. And so who is it that's done all the holiday baking?
It's Adam Scott's mother. So Max's grandmother.
The grandmother, who they call Nona, right?
Omi.
Why did I say Nona? Omi?
Omi or Omi. Probably grandmother in German or something. Maybe they were saying Oma. I don't know. It says Omi on IMDb, OMI.
And so, she's the one who's responsible for just baking all of this homemade stuff. It's all over
like
the
she's feeding the whole neighborhood, looks like.
Yeah, it's like a gingerbread house just threw up all over the kitchen. And so from there,
What we get from this scene when Tom and Sarah, that's the parents' names. That's Adam Scott and Toni Collette's characters are Tom and Sarah. When Tom and Sarah and the kids, Beth and Max, come into the house after, I guess, being out shopping, Grandma Omi's been baking up a storm in the house. And apparently what triggered the fight that Max was involved in was a question of, or other kids were either making fun of him about the fact that he probably kind of still believes in Santa. Like he's at the age where it's that cusp where
they don't say for sure.
One foot on both sides. It's like he's not sure, but he's not totally disbelieving. He wants to believe.
Yeah. How old would you say he is? Like pre-teenage, somewhere like 10 maybe?
They never said. But yeah,
like 10.
Preteen, somewhere
11,
in there, 10, 11.
Maybe at the oldest.
So that's kind of what started the fight. And the parents, I think, are talking back and forth about her sister and her sister's family that's coming for Christmas. And
meanwhile, he's just wanting to be like, hey, are we going to watch Charlie Brown and wrap presents? There's some thing that we've always done. Yeah. But
the dad's going to go work, or he's got to make some phone calls for work. Basically says, well, you were in a fight, so your punishment basically is, I don't have time to do this. So basically it's Max's ideal Christmas is already starting to fray at the edges.
Because he's like, aren't we going to make time to do this? And everybody just seems to be too busy, too preoccupied to really pay attention to him. His grandma, however, does seem to be earnestly trying to check in with him. And I think like it is in this scene, once everybody goes off and leaves him, in this scene, she's like, have you written your letter to Santa? And he goes, I'm still working on it. Like, I think at some point they're sitting down and he asks her if she still believes in Santa. And she says, she calls him St. Nicholas. And she says, St. Nicholas is what you make of him. Believing in him is to believe in the true spirit of the holiday. She talks about giving and sacrificing, and on that word she kind of hesitates, and you kind of see her face sort of go serious for a second on the word sacrifice, portending that something more ominous is going to be happening, there's something dark that she's holding there. But then,
I feel like Grandma should have been forthcoming with the truth a lot sooner
from the get-go
than she was.
But yes, pretty soon we get the arrival of the relatives, and it did kind of evoke feelings of National Lampoons, because you kind of just one by one see all of these people becoming aware that something, like, they're descending outside. Adam Scott's character Tom. I thought it was pretty funny that, like, when we flash to him, when the camera pans to him, he's literally just pouring alcohol straight in a coffee mug.
So the relatives arrive, and Sarah's sister Linda, she's okay. She's fairly normal, but her husband and her kids are just atrocious people.
I think they're described as, like, in a lot of the stuff that we included, as like rednecks.
We all know who they would have voted for in this past presidential election. Just horrible. So
who are the line of characters?
Her sister's Linda. Her boorish husband is Howard, and then they had 5 kids? I want to say they had like 5 kids. One of them was a baby.
A baby
that they had forgotten to unload off the car.
They were like, did you get her out of the car or something like that? I was like, who are they talking about? And then they come in holding a baby. I was like, a baby?
I thought it was going to be like a dog or something, but
right. With them, they've brought their aunt. Linda's brought their aunt, who is named
Aunt Dorothy.
Aunt Dorothy, who comes in saying, where's the nog? I need to get Mary. I have nog in the fridge, Ron, and I almost
Did she say Mary or marinated?
I thought I said Mary. I wrote Mary. This entire scene, like Ronnie said, these people are atrocious. It's a reminder, and I always forget, but it's really a reminder that Ronnie and I are really lucky, and that we don't have asinine people like this that we have to get together with every holiday season. A lot of people do. A lot of people are not as fortunate as we are. And so for them, holidays are a truly traumatic, awful experience. And if that's anybody listening, please know that you can just binge listen to us the whole season to get you through and tune those nasty people right out. From here.
Isn't it interesting that the holidays make us feel like we have to spend all this time with people that we probably would not choose as friends? You know,
right.
If they weren't family, we wouldn't choose them as friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
No, you and I are fine. And Alex, I don't have any problem with you guys or your kids.
Well, thanks.
And we're lucky.
Glowing recommendation.
I don't have a problem with you. It's like my youngest daughter. She's always giving these left-handed, I wouldn't even say they're compliments. I remember once I made something new for dinner. So my husband was asking her, well, did you like it? And she was like, her answer was, well, I don't hate it. It's like, gee, thanks.
My kids say stuff like that all the time. It wasn't the worst thing ever. I'm like, all right, thank you for that. We get to the dinner scene with this nightmare band of people, and it's as terrible as you can imagine it being. Everyone's just making all kinds of inappropriate comments at the table, and Toni Collette is just like silently chewing her way through it. At one point, her Aunt Dorothy is like criticizing her for not serving up ham and makes a racist remark. And so like Toni Collette is just like, all right, I'm going to go get dessert ready. She goes to the kitchen, and this is what I loved about this woman. She goes to the kitchen and she starts preparing individual creme brulees. And I'm just like, well, of course she would. This is the kind of woman who would make it. I went to a book club once, Ron, where the woman hosting did actually serve us individual creme brulees that she made herself. And so she was there at the kitchen, just like Toni Collette in the scene, with the blowtorch, caramelizing the sugar top. And that woman who did that is exactly who this character is in this movie, this Sarah character. Who are the cousins? I called them the asshole cousinettes, but that's not their name. What is their name?
According to IMDb, because I didn't get them in the movie either, their names are Jordan and Stevie.
Jordan and Stevie start reading Max's letter to Santa. And so they're just...
Which, yeah, I'm like, and...
Somehow they got a hold of his letter.
I can see that the boorish brother-in-law probably wouldn't interfere, but I don't understand why Max's own father didn't say, hey...
Cut it out.
Right. Why he didn't put a stop to it. Like,
right.
Because they're reading it right at the table. Everyone, other than Sarah, Toni Collette's character, is the only one she's still in the kitchen with her desserts. Yeah, so they're just reading out his very personal Santa letter. And it's a very telling Santa letter, because he's not asking for material things. It's things like, I just want Christmas to be the way it used to be. Mm-hmm. I want mom and dad to fall in love again. Mm-hmm. He even says something, he even has a nice wish about his boorish aunt and uncle and cousins. I forget exactly what it was, but something about, I hope things go better for them.
Right. And for things not to be so hard for them. Because, you get the sense that, just like in National Lampoon's, money's tight for this family. Mm-hmm. And
although they drive a Hummer, so I don't know. It didn't make sense to me.
Max is humiliated by this. Nobody really comes to his defense or aid in that moment. And he declares that he just wanted Christmas to be like it used to be, but that's obviously not going to happen. He declares that he hates Christmas and he hates everyone, and he storms off. At a later point, his father goes up there and tries to explain to him, like Max says, he's like, I don't understand why we have to put up with relatives' crap just because they share DNA. And I was just like, well, isn't that what the Christmas season is? Putting up with people's crap because you share DNA.
It's like that line from Beverly D'Angelo's character in Christmas Vacation. She goes, well, we're all miserable.
It's the holidays and we're all miserable.
We're all miserable.
I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add from the father-son scene. It's just him trying to comfort him, basically. But later on, Max he is sad and angry still, and he rips up his letter to Santa and he casts it into the wind. Mm-hmm. Again, another ominous sign is like the snow is starting to fall heavier and heavier.
It's like immediately we're in the day after tomorrow type weather.
Right. And so it's important, like after he casts it into the window, into the window, we see that we are now at the eve of the eve, the day before Christmas Eve, right? Mm-hmm. So, because just like in National Lampoons, there's little scenes where like someone's opening an advent calendar. And so we're seeing, okay, it's December 23rd. What is it? It's like overnight, right? That this winter storm hits, and there's no power, there's no heat, there's no water. Did it remind you of like
Been Texas? There, done that.
Yeah, Texas 2021.
When our power grid failed.
I always remember.
I don't know how many years that it snowed.
So the first time I watched this movie, that didn't really enter my brain. But today, as I was rewatching that section of it, that entered my brain. And Veronica, like, can you like go back in time and remember how insane that was? That was also during like COVID hitting. Mm-hmm. And here we are with this winter storm. And I remember people posting on Nextdoor, like, can anybody get groceries to so-and-so? Can anybody get what? Like, it was a mess. It was such a disaster. so much trauma.
And you guys did without power longer than we did, because San Antonio, well, where I live, which is outside San Antonio, we have a different power company than San Antonio does. So we fared a lot better with our power. Like it would kind of cycle. It cycled off and on, but you could kind of predict when was the next time it was going to come on. So you could do all your cooking really quickly in that time frame. And,
no,
you guys were without for days and days.
We were without power for like, I'll have to go back and look at stuff, but I think it was like 48 hours that we were without power. And so that meant no heat. And so it was just, and we didn't have a working fireplace. So it was just,
we're not used to that cold in Texas.
Our neighbors behind us did have a working fireplace, and like we could see he would have his fire going.
Your fireplace didn't work?
We had never ever run it at like the entirety of the time that we lived in that house, which was 10 freaking years, Veronica, but we had never run it. And so it just like, it didn't work anymore. But yeah, I mean, like our neighbor behind us did have a working fireplace because we would see it lit like every day. And so we were all talking to each other as we could, neighbors, trying to, what a traumatic experience. It was such a nightmare. But yeah, that wasn't even the hard part. The no heat wasn't the hard part. The hard part came after, because when we got power back and we had heat, then what went was the water. And not having water was tough. If I had washed my hair before all of this, I would have been ready. But I hadn't washed my hair in days prior to us losing all this stuff. So I washed my hair with snow, which didn't really work out.
Like, memories like the corner of my mind.
But anyway, yeah, we wake up, snowstorm has hit, and they're out of power, they're out of heat, all of that stuff. And important to note, because it gets featured throughout the movie, but Max looks out the window and discovers a creepy looking snowman has appeared outside.
A big ass snowman.
Yeah, and I thought there was going to be something to that, because it was definitely like, it wasn't a cheerful looking snowman. It looked ominous.
There's no movement outside, because truly, I was joking about it being weather-like in the movie The Day After Tomorrow, but it truly is like that level. Snow is covering everything. There's no movement outside. And for some reason, Beth, the daughter, she's been trying to get a hold. She's been texting her boyfriend who hasn't responded. And for some reason, she thinks that this is cause for her to go out in this horrible, nasty blizzard weather to go check on him. And I'm like, why? Why do you have to do this?
And they let her do
and
it.
They let her go. Like, I'm like, why?
I was watching this. I was like, no, don't let her go.
So she sets off in this blizzard weather, and she's walking past house after house. Nobody has power. Everything is completely covered in snow.
And it's kind of getting progressively more dim outside, just sort of looking more abandoned and isolating and things like that.
She's walking along, and I don't remember if she comes up again. Oh, that delivery truck.
The delivery truck guy who had stopped by earlier dropping off packages.
Oh, yeah. He had stopped by the house earlier and to deliver some packages. And then there was like a big bag, like if you would picture Santa Claus's gift bag, it was a big bag like that sitting on the porch. He was not delivering that. That was already there from some other source. And so they take that inside. So anyway, when Beth is out there trudging to her boyfriend's house, she comes across the van, that same delivery guy, except he is frozen to death inside the vehicle.
With a look of fear on his face, like he was just frozen in terror.
Yeah. And so at this point, she starts to hear sounds carried on the wind that are ominous, scary sounding. So does she see it?
She sees
it before she hides under the truck?
Because she sees
she sees it's jumping
on the roof,
from roof to roof.
Right,
That's right.
So this is where I was going to ask you, because this is, we see like a shadow of him basically, right? You don't even really see him, but it's him. This is our main event. This is Krampus. Yeah. And so I wanted to ask you,
big hulking shape that you just see just jumping like it's nothing from
roof to
roof. I thought it was a cool visual. If I had been her, I would have, because she can't have walked that far in that kind of weather. It's not like she has walked a mile. Turn around and run home.
I got the vibe that her boyfriend was only a couple blocks away. So it's not like she had very far to walk, but
turn around and run home. But no, she hides under the
It is worth noting. It is worth noting and related to, I don't know if much of this movie was filmed in New Zealand at a place called Stone Street Studios. So I don't know if this was filmed on a lot or what, but I thought the visuals were pretty cool. The snow, the wintry wonderland, the Krampus on the rooftops. I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, you were saying she goes and she hides under a van.
She's hiding under the truck. So then all you see is her ground level view. So she sees hooves, like this creature walks up to the truck, and all we see, of course, is what she sees, which are his big hooves. They're not regular feet, they're hooves. He walks around for a bit like he's looking for her. She's got her hand covering her mouth so she doesn't try not to make any noise to alert him to her presence.
And he leaves,
and
right?
Then he walks off. And I was expecting like for him to like rip the van off and expose her. So that didn't happen. So that was
or like yank her out. Yeah,
yank her out, but that doesn't happen. Instead, all of a sudden she starts hearing like a song playing. And she looks, and it's like one of those Jack in the Box
little Jack in the Box.
It's like it's winding down, it's playing the music, and
but it's
when
like slow and creepy.
Yeah,
and...
well, it's slowing down because when it stops playing, as it gets slower and slower and eventually stops, that's when the Jack in the Box pops out.
Right.
So then that happens, it stops and it opens, but did we get a good shot of what was in there?
Well, no, because it doesn't pop out. It very slowly lifts out. And so it is a Jack in the Box creature, but it doesn't pop out. It's just very slowly popping out and staring at her all creepy. And then from there, we just get the overhead angle overlooking the van, and we just see the van rocking violently and Beth is screaming. And so that's it.
And I'm thinking, no, there's no way that they would kill the daughter off this early, if at all. There's no way.
Who wasn't even like a bad kid. I was just like, why not take the jerk cousins who
I know
humiliated Max.
So I'm thinking she's got to be alive somewhere for sure. Like she can't be dead.
Do you think, and I mean, like jumping ahead obviously a little bit later, but do you think that Jack in the Box is the one we see again later that is at that point much larger? So. Yeah. That's what we see of Beth. And we're just like, well, I guess goodbye, Beth. We don't know yet. So by this point, night is starting to fall, and these parents, Tom and Sam are looking out. I just want to call her Toni Collette.
Well, her name's Sarah, not Sam.
Yes, Tom and Sam are looking out the window. What did I say?
You Tom and Sam.
Sorry. Whatever, Tom and Sarah. I almost said it again, Tom and Sarah. Okay, looking out the window. And meanwhile, Max is also taking notice of like, we have more snowmen appearing in the yard. And so at this point,
reproducing
Ron,
back there.
Were you thinking, I was thinking these snowmen are actually going to be people. Just watch. It's just like dead people that they're building snowmen around.
I thought at some point they were going to like become animated and be like a snowman army.
Yeah. Honestly, nothing ever ends up coming of these snowmen. And yeah, I think that was a missed opportunity. I would have welcomed some killer snowmen into the mix. Their daughter hasn't come back. If it were me, I'd be beside myself. This is like weather that people die in, and they're just like, well, she's a smart girl. I'm like, what?
Oh, I know. I wrote that down. The niece, not the niece, she says this after they come back, I think.
Yeah.
So Tom and Howard, the brother-in-law, they
are going to go out.
They load up, they arm up, because of course Howard is a gun owner. So they go out and they're searching to go look for Beth.
And Grandma's on the edge. She does not like this idea. She wants everyone to stay put. She's obsessed.
She's remarkably unconcerned about Beth, considering
the grandma,
granddaughter.
Yeah, she's just very kind of closed off and aloof, but just ominous throughout the whole movie. She's just ominous, and she's obsessed with like, we need to keep the fireplace going. We need to keep the fire hot. Blah 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 blah. But they want to head out, and they want to go look for Beth. In the process of being out there and on the roads, they see that houses are abandoned, and these are houses that are like in their neighborhood. They seem like they've long been abandoned. Like everything just looked very old and dark out there, and it looked like it had been that way for years and years and years. In their search for clues about what happened to Beth, they walk into one of these abandoned houses. They see evidence of maybe some attacks. They see a stabbed. Do you remember the stabbed gingerbread man?
Mm-hmm. On the fridge.
On the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then they rush out because they think they hear a noise or something. There's something in the snow. I don't know what did you label it in your notes? The thing in the snow.
It was like tremors.
It kind of felt like something snakish. Yeah, like there was like
Did
a
you ever
rattling.
See Tremors?
I never saw Tremors.
Well, Tremors was like these big underground worm-like things that just burrowed underground. So you would only ever see the top of the dirt just like ripple as it was like, it moved underground like a fish through water. It was like fast. And so it was like, It's Tremors.
Did you ever, like in Tremors, do you ever see the Tremors? Or whatever? What are they called? Are they called Tremors?
The characters in the movie just called them graboids.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Graboids.
Oh, graboids. I thought you said grab boys. I was like, what?
No, graboids. Because they would just come up from underground and just like pull you under.
Okay.
So it was kind of it was that.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of the sandworms in Beetlejuice. I was just like, it's a snow worm. You never see it. You just hear it. It's like a rattling sound that it makes. Howard gets attacked by one of these things, and Tom is able to like shoot at it and get it to go off and leave him alone. So they're able to stumble all the way back. They try to go back to Howard's vehicle, and it's been ripped to shreds.
Ripped apart.
It's been destroyed.
Goodbye, Humvee.
So they're able to hobble all their way back to the house. They have.
This is where Sarah's sister tells her something along the lines of, Beth's a tough girl. She'll be all right. And I'm like, that's a really dumb thing to say considering...
Yeah.
There's something out there that was big enough to drag a grown-ass man through the through the snow.
Almost take off with him, yeah. Yeah, and it's like, she'll be fine. And I'm like, how? How will she be fine? It's blizzard out there, and like there's
4
no
degrees
heat.
outside. It's like 4 degrees outside.
You get frostbite in this weather. How is she fine? Oh,
and we should also mention that while the men are still out there looking for Beth, back at the house, they hear something moving around on their roof.
That's right.
And Toni Collette's like, oh, it's probably just squirrels. And then they hear like a really big, heavy thud, and nobody.
Wait, is this where
they should not go investigate, because that's like the number one dumb thing people do in scary movies is go investigate. But they don't do anything.
There was a funny line in that moment, I think, where Toni is like, maybe it's Sarah says something like, it's just squirrels. And then I think Aunt Dorothy goes, yeah, it's just squirrels playing with their nuts. That's what I wrote down. She says something like that. I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
Something. Sarah's sister, Linda, trying stupidly to comfort her. And you're getting some nice moments between Howard and Tom. So just some trauma bonding happening at holiday time. And then
I think this is the night where they finally start to Oma. Is this where she tells them?
Yeah, after like the stuff that happens up in the attic. So what happens here is Howard offers to take first night's watch, but of course he falls asleep. And then like halfway through the night or something, that's where
Oma did also tell them. The only thing she does tell them, and this is where I think she waited too long to divulge the truth. All she really tells them is just don't let the fire burn out.
Right. And
which of course they do.
Which in this moment it does. And so then this is where we start getting creepy little giggly noises happening. And then a gingerbread man comes down attached to a chain that has a hook at the end of it. Max's cousin, the little boy who never even speaks the whole movie. What is his name, Ron?
Howie Jr.
Howie Jr., of course. So Howie Jr. sees the gingerbread man, takes the cookie off the hook thinking, ooh, delicious treat.
This is normal.
Takes a bite out of this cookie, and then the gingerbread man comes to life, and the gingerbread attacks him, strings the boy up with a chain, and starts trying to
haul him back up.
Haul the boy up the chimney. And then this is where we have Sarah, Toni Collette, trying to grab onto the boy, pull him back down. The dying fire's embers get launched, scattered onto their holiday tree in the living room, which sets ablaze. So it's just
like Christmas Vacation.
Right. So, I mean, this whole sequence I thought was pretty fun. I don't know about you, but I thought it was.
Well, it was. Everybody's trying to pull him back. It was kind of like a chain of, what's that, monkey chain?
Yeah. This part felt Gremlins. The gingerbread men, what did you think of the gingerbread men?
I like the gingerbread men.
They were pretty funny. They reminded me of Gremlins.
When Howard was battling the gingerbread men.
The family does manage to pull Sarah back down out of the chimney, but the boy is gone. He is gone. And we don't know where he's gone at this point. So at this point we think, okay, another child has been taken away.
Yeah. One of his sneakers just falls back through the chimney, and that's all that's left of little Howie.
And so now Grandma finally comes out with it. And so you want to take people
Two children
through.
Too late.
Yes.
This is where the movie, I really like this part because it kind of, and I know I thought this first, mind you, before I read any of the reviews that we've posted in the show notes, but I was like, it's like an old Rankin Bass Christmas special. I don't know if it was claymation necessarily, but whatever, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, all those old, as Oma or Omi is recounting what happened to her in the past with this same kind of Krampus. This is where she tells them the story of her experience with Krampus. It's all told in that old like Rankin Bass style
animation or whatever.
Yeah, animation or clay animation or whatever.
Yeah, I like that sequence too.
And so basically, she said that when she was a girl, she also, kind of like Max, was wanting to hold on to Christmas, and just all the adults around her, everybody just was being mean and rude. And even in her own family, it wasn't the Christmas like she used to remember. And so she also, I think she had a doll or something, and she broke it or ripped it in half or something. And again, like Max, summoned the spirit of Krampus, who came and basically obliterated her entire village, but left her.
And left her as a reminder, she says, of what happens when hope is dies. Lost. Yeah. And, you know, when the spirit of Christmas dies. And so that's what she tells people. And Howard is like, what does he say? Something about what a bunch of senile horse shit. So he makes up his mind that he wants to head out. He's got to go find his boy. But he opens the door and we see even more snowmen out there in the yard. Plus, we start hearing the cackles of creatures that we don't really ever get a good look at. They look sinister. We're going to learn later on what they are. Toni, Collette, Sarah closes the door and she's like, don't go out there. Don't open the door. We are seeing another advent calendar door open, and now we're at Christmas Eve. It's now Christmas Eve, December 24th. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house. It was in this point in the movie, Ron, that I wrote in my notes, if you've trauma bonded this long into the story, you should get to live. Because at this point, what we know is these two kids are gone. We don't know where they are, but just like, I feel like these people should get to live. I know that doesn't happen, especially not in like zombie movies. That doesn't happen. Like, it doesn't matter how much trauma bonding you do, you can still die. But at this point in the movie, I was just like, well, I hope everybody makes it. The parents are in the kitchen trying to hatch a plan, right?
Yeah, because Tom has the plan. Is it Tom? Yeah, Tom has the plan. Because when he and Howard were out there looking for Beth, one of the things they came across was like a bulldozer
like
that
a snowplow.
Snowplow that still had the keys in it. So he's come up with this plan that he's going to go to go check out, get the bulldozer, snowplow. Me and the snowplow and the bulldozer are you and Sarah and Sam.
Okay. Veronica doesn't live where there's snow. So.
I don't. So
and neither do
He's gonna go out and get the snowplow, bring it back to the house. They're all gonna pile on it and then just drive until they get somewhere that's safe.
Right.
Or where there's people. And while they are doing that, the two girls,
Jordan and Stevie,
apparently somebody has to go to use the bathroom. And for whatever reason, which I didn't catch, they can't use the bathroom that's downstairs. So they have to go use the one upstairs.
I think Aunt Dorothy clogged it up.
Oh.
So they've got to go upstairs.
She went and got married. So they have to go upstairs to use the bathroom. Once they're up there, they hear what sounds like Beth's voice calling them, up in the attic. And so Beth is like, come here, I have something to show you. And they go up to the attic.
And then the next thing we hear is we're back downstairs and we hear them screaming somewhere upstairs. And so the adults grab weapons and flashlights and stuff and try to head upstairs. And Howard specifically stays down, and that's going to come into play later. But Howard stays down to, I don't know, guard.
He is injured, by the way.
He is injured, right? That's right.
Bit from that snow worm or whatever it was.
The graboid, whatever. The adults head up to the attic to investigate, and there's evidence of wrapping that has come undone. Linda had earlier taken some old burnt up toys up to the attic that she was going to try to rewrap to make Christmas special for what remaining kids they had.
They're going down fast.
And these boxes have clearly been opened. And so whatever was in there is no longer in there. And so now,
from the dark recesses of the attic, that Jack in the Box, whatever you call the Jack from in the box, rises up, but it is humongous. It's like a big old anaconda snake.
Yes.
Just like, and it's in the process, you just see like one of the, I don't know which girl it was. Oh, I think it was Jordan. Jordan's feet just being swallowed down, like a snake would swallow down, just whole.
It was cool. I want to recreate this Jack in the Box for Halloween.
So poor Linda, Aunt Linda, she's watching one of her daughters being swallowed live by this.
And these parents are just standing there like, Like nobody has an appropriate reaction.
And then all of a sudden, all these other toys start appearing, which I couldn't even make out what some of them were. There was a bear, a stuffed bear.
I called it killer teddy bear.
Yeah, there was some kind of electronic
robot-looking thing.
Robotic-looking animal.
Some sort of demonic angel doll.
Yeah.
Something with feathers. It's
some sort of
angel doll that had
angel
feathers.
Doll. So they're all individually, these three adults are all individually fighting for their lives. And then at one point, Linda, the sister, she's finally had enough. She's seeing the Jack-in-the-Box thing trying to open a vent so it can crawl into the vent system and escape. And so was it an axe? What did she get?
It was an axe, yeah.
And she grabs an axe. The angel doll thing is literally trying to hang Sarah.
Her sister.
She's hanging.
The robot is stabbing Tom in the back.
So Linda goes all Sarah Connor here. She has her Sarah Connor moment. She kind of goes through and she chops through the angel doll is hanging Sarah with. She goes after the Jack-in-the-Box, but unfortunately it gets away from her.
It gets away. And meanwhile, downstairs, Howard has encountered the gingerbread men.
And kitchen battle.
Yeah, he's in the great kitchen battle of his life with the gingerbread men who are attacking him. And I thought this was really fun. This is the part of the movie. Like, I feel like if I could get my kids to watch this, they would find this entertaining because these gingerbread men are just angry and attacking him, and he's fending them off, shooting at them, trying to get them. And then he's ultimately saved by their beloved bulldog who chows down on the last of the gingerbread men coming at him. The Jack-in-the-Box, did you say the Jack-in-the-Box does get away? She tries to get him, but he's able to slip down into the vent.
And then she notices that one of her other daughter, Omi, is not Omi, hello. Stevie, is like unconscious there on the floor. So she's still alive. So
she made it.
They grab her. They all run back downstairs. They all gather in the living room. And then what happened? Oh, some of the toys that they thought they had dispatched from the attic
make their way down.
And they're in the living room. The murderous teddy bear. So it's like a free-for-all.
Somehow Aunt Dorothy gets a hold of the shotgun. Yeah. And so she's firing off shots at these creatures. And Tom looks at her and says, Aunt Dorothy, finish it. And she's like, with pleasure. And you think she's going to do it. But then at this point, in come the crazy killer elves with wearing these cool ancient masks and chains, and they come barging in.
And mind you, no one has the baby again. The baby's just sitting there on the floor.
Baby's just out there living her life, just trying to survive. And so these elves work quickly. They're like wrapping up. They chain Dorothy up, Aunt Dorothy up. They pick up the baby. They make off with this baby, and then Uncle Howard is gonna like go out. They take Uncle Howard, and you hear Aunt Dorothy say, "I'll see you in hell," and then they haul her off too.
I totally missed what happened to Aunt Dorothy. I was going to ask you because they
had her all chained up, and then her last words right before they rip her out of the house was, "I'll see you in hell."
So now we are down for characters. We just have Tom, Sarah, Stevie, Max, and that's it, right?
Yeah. Baby's gone. Like that's it. The only children left.
She walked in there with 4 kids. She's down to 1.
And she's like...
Oh, and Omi. Omi's still alive.
And Omi. That's right. Yeah. But
so 5 characters.
Linda's like, what is happening? Sarah and Tom are like, okay, we're
all going to go for this.
Stick with the plan. We're going to all leave. We're leaving this house. While they're having this discussion, there is a howl, some sort of animal howl that they hear in the distance. And in that, by the way, is the elves seem to leave in a hurry, almost like they hear this howl and they're afraid of it because they take off pretty quickly. As quickly as they come, they're gone just as fast. And so the family is like, we need to leave. We need to go and stick with our plan to get to the snowplow and try to get to other people. But Grandma is not of that mind. Grandma wants to stay behind, right?
I'm not really clear what that accomplished, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I think in her mind, she thought, I'm going to draw the beast to me. It's time for me to face this monster. This is, whatever. But her idea is I'll draw the beast. You guys get away. That's her idea. They leave. She closes the door. She's in the house alone. And we are preparing as the audience for our first sighting, truly, of Krampus. And I was very excited for this moment. What were you feeling like the whole scene as he's coming down the chimney and all of that?
I just wanted to get a good look at him, to get an idea of
what did you think of him when you saw him in all his glory?
I don't know if maybe the settings on my TV are off, but it just was really dark. So I feel like I never really got a good, like I wanted to just, and I guess I could have paused it. Hello, I could have paused it to get a good look.
But I hear you, because like visually I thought the scene of him coming down the chimney and all that, very cool, well done. My only nitpick with this movie is kind of the same with all of them, where it's just like I wish we got more screen time with these monster creatures. Like I want to be able to see them more. And
Krampus,
I get,
for sure, he's the title character.
And I get why they don't do it. I know it's more effective if they leave you like wanting more, but I want more scenes of him. What I saw of him, I thought he was really cool looking. I think a lot of the creature effects were the work of, Ron, you may recognize this name, Weta Workshop?
Weta
Workshop?
Weta Workshop. Mm-hmm.
Who did a lot of work with your Lord of the Rings movies.
Well, Krampus was played by an actor named Luke Hawker. So physically, there was a man walking around in that.
When I initially saw the movie, I thought the face felt kind of static, not a whole lot of movement. But on second viewing today, I thought, no, I take that back. It was really effectively done. Looks great. Very cool. No notes. I thought it was great. The only note I would give it is I just wish we'd seen more of him. I don't know if you want to go through what happens in that scene where she sees him. We don't really, like, nothing really happens. I don't really know.
Nothing really happens.
Nothing really happens. He opens up his bag of toys and we see, like, some sinister crap in there, but
yeah, that's why I don't really know what happens
to her.
I don't really know what the purpose of her sacrifice was.
We don't really see what happens to her, but then we do get some heartbreaking scenes. You know, and we see what's left of this family trying to make it to the snowplow, kind of one by one getting picked off, because Tom immediately sees that the snow worms or whatever they are coming for them. He can hear them. He can hear that rattle or whatever it is. And so he tells his family goodbye, and he tells them he loves them, and he says, you got to go. You got to go. I'm going to stay behind. He tries to hold off these worms with his gun. He gets sucked down into the snow, and you presume that he's gone. And so then it's just Toni Collette and her sister Linda. And they also, too, get hauled off one by one. You know, Sarah is trying to put her kids in the snowplow. As she's doing that, Linda gets sucked down in the snow and taken off. And so Sarah's able to get the kids in the snowplow. She closes the door. This is heartbreaking. She's like, I love you to Max. And then she gets sucked down and taken away. So what were you thinking at this point? Because I was starting to feel like, okay, this movie's not so fun anymore because nobody's making it.
I was pretty much like, who's going to be there to make it to the end? Which shouldn't be surprising, because that's kind of the formula for most horror movies, right? It's like there's the last person standing. There's usually just one, in most cases, just the one lone survivor, which would make sense if it's Max, because he's the one who summoned the demon, and just like his grandmother summoned Krampus accidentally when she was young, but she was the only one left.
Yeah.
I was figuring, well, maybe it's just the person who summoned Krampus that is the person that gets left behind.
Yeah. And so like at this point in the movie, we're nearly like an hour and a half in, and I wrote, hey man, I think people are dying. So
they can't get the snowplow to start.
They can't get it to start. And I thought this was really funny. I thought it was really funny. I wrote this down. So they're in the snowplow. They're desperately trying to get it to start. And Max, who's really flustered, he goes, we have a hybrid.
Yeah, like I can't drive this. We have a hybrid.
I know. I was like, these are small children. They can't do crap.
Krampus's minions, or I don't know if you call them elves or whatever, break through. They drag Stevie out. Now it's just Max.
Literally just Max.
Literally just Max. But he jumps down. He can still hear Stevie
somewhere. Yeah.
Somewhere, in the voice carried in the wind. And he comes across where Krampus is with his minions, and they've got Stevie there. This is where he starts to plead, basically, for, I guess, Krampus's mercy, and is telling him, like, you can fix this. I know you can fix this. I want my family back.
Take me instead.
Take me instead. Yeah. They, like, the ground erupts and kind of basically forms almost like a little volcano or
fiery pit.
Fire pit, something. And they're on the verge of tossing Stevie into this. And so for a minute, Krampus stops and uses one of his claws.
You almost think he's moved by Max.
And I was thinking, because one of the things that his Omi was telling, the Christmas spirit and sacrifice in the giving. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe this is what he has to do in order to reverse everything, is if he's willing to sacrifice himself for everybody else, then maybe this is what will correct everything, so to speak. Right. And so we really think for a minute that this is going to work. Krampus is going to accept his sacrifice. Well, no, they chuck Stevie in there anyway.
He like laughs in his face and he's like, bye.
And then throw Max in behind him.
Only for us to fade to white. And then suddenly we're back in Max's bedroom and it's morning. And we come to realize it was all a dream. Max wakes up. He comes downstairs. All of the family is back there. They're like, oh, we were waiting for you. Yeah, you're finally awake. Let's do Christmas. Let's open presents. And he's just like, oh my God, everyone's alive. Everyone's there. They're all accounted for. We made it. And he's hugging his parents. He's just like, you've got Sarah being like, oh, what's this for? And he goes, I'm just so happy to be together at Christmas, blah, blah, blah. They start handing out presents and Max opens up his present. And inside is the same little Krampus Christmas bell that Krampus had tried to give him initially. Because like where Max first encounters Krampus out there in the wilderness, what am I trying to say? Winter Wonderland wilderness, good grief. Krampus like chucks Max's old Christmas letter at his feet, and wrapped up in his old Christmas letter is the Krampus bell. He chucked it back at Krampus's feet when he found them and tried to plead for his family back. He was like, give me back my family, you asshole, or something like that. Yeah. And so to see it showing up in this little box, the second he opens it, he looks terrified, and everyone else's expressions around him looked equally terrified. What did you make of that?
I wanted everybody to remember that this happened, because if it's only Max that remembers that all of this happened, then there's no motivation for anybody to
change,
to continue the steps towards change that were happening, as they were all were being forced to rely on each other and trust each other to survive. So if nobody remembers any of that, then it's not going to be any good. So I interpreted that to mean, because while that's happening, as you hear things being repeated that were said during the movie by different characters. And so I took that to mean, and all their kind of like puzzled looks, is that once Max sees Krampus's little chime bell, is that kind of triggered them to start remembering.
Oh, yes.
That's what happened. And because that's the only way it would work. Or that would be the only satisfactory ending for me, is if they all remember and learn from it. Yeah.
So then we zoom out from that scene, and what do we see, Ron?
They're all like in a snow globe, and just a snow globe that Krampus then puts on a shelf, and the room is full of shells with snow globes. So he's basically like Santa Claus, watching over all of us. Yeah. You really don't want to be on the naughty list.
Final thoughts on it? Final thoughts on what you liked about it or didn't like? How would you rate it in terms of scary?
In terms of scary, no. I did not find any of it scary or creepy.
It's fit for children to watch.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah. Not super small children. But yeah, I mean, I think I didn't find it scary. It was campy fun, but like the characters were playing it straight. Some of it was humorous, but not scary.
Yeah, no, not scary. Good effects though, right? I thought it was really, really nicely done. Really cool monster creatures. The elves, Krampus, all of that they get right. It looked really cool. It was really effective.
I think it's worth adding.
Easily watch this again, and easily watch it year after year.
Make it into the Christmas rotation. I do want to mention, I forgot to mention at some point in here, where was it? Aunt Dorothy. Aunt Dorothy had some funny lines, like where she says, Oma said something in German. I'm assuming it was German. One of the kids, I don't remember which one, asked her, well, how do you know what she said? And she says, she's saying we're fucked. Yes. And one of the kids was like, well, how do you know that's what she said? She goes, because I'm old enough to know when life is coming at you with his pants down.
And that actress who plays that, Conchata? Is it Conchata?
Conchata Ferrell.
I want to make that ta. She's a great actress. You guys will know her when you see her. She passed away in 2020, but you will know that face when you see her. She was in a lot of movies. She was in Mystic Pizza. She was in Edward Scissorhands.
I recently discovered that on Amazon Prime, I think it is, they're streaming the 4 seasons of Nikita, starring Maggie Q.
Oh, you used to love that show.
I used to love that show. So in rewatching it, it's full of plot holes, people. So I know it's full of plot holes, but I just like Maggie Q.
We started watching. No, yeah, I'm not really into anything new. We started the new season of Shrinking, but I don't know, whatever. I'm only a couple seasons into that, or a couple episodes, so hard to make anything of it right now.
The actress that played the sister, Linda, Allison Tolman, I actually just by sheer coincidence recently came across a show. It's a new sitcom, and it's on one of the regular ABC, CBS, NBC. I don't remember which one of those networks. It's a 30-minute comedy. It's called St. David's or St. Dennis. But it's set in a hospital. So the actress plays like a nurse who's like newly in charge of, I think it's the ER department. And it's kind of in that mockumentary style.
Oh, fun.
So I've been watching that. It's funny.
I guess we'll announce. Did you have a chance to sort of think about?
Well, I would like, my vote would be to stick with something in the lighthearted genre. So there were a couple of movies that came up in one of those lists. I don't know that you sent me. Something in the Barn, which is Norwegian.
Ooh, yeah.
Or The Anne and the Apocalypse, which is, I think, set in Scottish. I don't know if that makes it Scottish produced, but it's set in Scotland.
Okay.
Around Christmas. So either one of those would be fine with me.
Okay. Well, let's see. This is the kind of thing. And a great chance to plug. Don't Watch at Night. We do now have a Patreon, guys, for those who are interested. We're going to post that information in show notes. Please go check us out at the Patreon. Joining is free, but if you want to go ahead and pay to join our $3 tier, which is the only tier that there is, that gives you one video episode a month, a happy hour, like a live streamed happy hour once a month. And then there's also going to be opportunity to engage in discussions where you might help us pick out the movie. So right now, as Veronica and I weigh decisions between these two films, would be a great opportunity for you to weigh in and vote and potentially get to help us decide. So head to that link that we'll post in show notes, and we hope you'll consider joining, because coming down the pike, we do hope to do things eventually like virtual live shows that we would love for you to be part of.
Trying to decide if I want to venture out in this weather to go to the bookstore or not, since I'm flying solo.
Dude, evening. I don't even leave my house once it gets dark. Good for you. I'm going to be staying home. This is late for me. I'm going to be going to bed soon.
It's 7:42, people, just in case you want to know.
Well, meanwhile, I'll get texts from Veronica at like 1 a.m. and she's like responding to something that I sent her at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon that day.
I don't carry my phone with me everywhere. Sometimes I don't even know. Little quick story. When we went to get our Christmas tree, I was the one like strapping it to the hood because I had a YouTube video. And
YouTube video on what? On how to do that?
How to tie the Christmas tree.
Okay.
Because we had a Christmas once where we thought we had tied it and it flew off as we were going down the highway. So
down the highway.
So I have this permanently saved YouTube video on how to tie it. So I was doing it. I did it, and then we got in the car and we were pulling off, and I'm suddenly like, where's my phone? I don't have my phone. Oh my
God, Veronica.
So Robert is calling me on the phone. I can hear it, but it's like really muted. Like it's not like, I'm like, where is it? Where is it? Christ. And so I said, oh my God, it's on the roof of the car. But luckily there was a lot of traffic, so he could never like really build up a lot of speed. So we pulled off, and sure enough, it was up there on the roof of the car with the Christmas tree.
Like, get your life together. You need like 1 week where there's not crap going on with you, like related to a vehicle. Well, thank you everyone for listening. And we've got one more episode coming to you this month. It will be coming on the eve of the eve. So look for us.
Podcast of 2024.
Yes, last episode. Is it going to be, what episode is this? No, this is 37. We still have a couple more to go, and then we'll hit 40th episode, which is exciting. That's it, folks. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Don't Watch at Night is a Nest production hosted by me, Veronica, and Valerie. Editing by Valerie. Music by Omar Chakor. Production support for this episode provided by Lorenzo Villarreal and Alex Street. Listen to new episodes of Don't Watch at Night every other Monday, and don't forget to give us a rate and review. It's the best way to help us grow.